back to the Meeple Marathon. In today's video, we are going to be talking about how to play the Anarchy. This is the spiritual successor to Bobby Hill's Hadrian's Wall and has a lot of the same mechanics. So if you're familiar with that game, you're going to see a lot of similar things here. This one, though, is actually more complex. I'm just going to be right up front with you. So if you are looking for a really heavy flip and right, this one's going to be right up your alley. There's a lot of crunchy choices in this game here to help be successful. But before we get into the sheets, which is obviously the main part of the game, is filling out your sheets, I want to talk about these two boards up here, because this is really the crux of what you need to focus on. So let's cover what happens with these two boards, then we'll look at the sheets and how to fill out the sheets to accomplish what's happening up here. So the historical significance of the Anarchy is when King Henry I in 1135 passed away unexpectedly. His son, his only heir to the throne, was lost at sea. If you have ever read the book Pillars of the Earth by Kevin Follett, that takes place in the same time period. It is a classic book, masterpiece. I suggest reading it. It is fictitious, but it takes place in this time period. So a lot of this history comes out in the book anyways. And when King Henry I passes away, he has spoken about possibly trying to get his daughter to be the rightful heir of the throne, Matilda. But a lot of people won't have that. She's a girl. She's not a rightful heir. And so then there's a nephew, a favorite nephew of King Henry, Stephen. King Stephen swoops in, takes the throne, but Matilda is constantly throughout this period resisting him. She's taking over parts of England herself, and they're all fighting over who's the rightful king. So hence the Anarchy, because there was a lot of fighting between these two patriarchs, but also the nobility in the area. Some of them just said, screw those guys, I'm just going to go do my own thing. So lots of chaos in England at this time. What you're going to see throughout your play is that you can attack her castles. You're playing technically as King Stephen. So even in a multiplayer game, all of you are playing as if you were King Stephen. So you could possibly go out and attack Queen Matilda, or not Queen, but Matilda's castles, which are represented by these cards. And no matter whether you attack her or not, she is always going to come and attack you at the end of each round. Those are represented by these cards here, which we will talk about here in just a second. But let's go ahead and flip some over. Actually, it would go like that. So first of all, let's talk about something you could do in the middle of a round. And you can do it on your own. You don't have to wait for other players. One of the glorious things about this game is that it is simultaneous play. So other than the beginning of a round where you're choosing these cards, which determines your starting kind of meeple pool, then everybody goes and everybody just plays through and does their actions at their own pace. On your turn, you can choose to attack the next castle online that is face up. As the game progresses, these castles will flip over, all right, meaning you cannot attack them. But they are going to leave behind some defense values that you'll have to deal with if you fall behind. So in order to attack this castle in particular, you will need 1 food, so you have to pay 1 food. You would also need to have achieved the ladder. All right, we'll show you how to achieve the ladder, but that's one of the things you have to check off on your sheet. You have to provide the necessary resources, funding, and unlock the ladder. Basically, in your first round, if you want to be able to attack this castle in this particular game. You also then need to send a strength of warriors equal to or higher than 4. So you've got many meeples here. Let's find one of each color. You've got lots of different meeples in the game. The red and the blue are your military. So your yellow is your serfs. These are, the peasants, the workers. Then the black meeples are your craftsmen. So these are the ones who you're going to need to actually build stuff. These guys pair a lot of times with the wood, the kind of lone resource in the game, to actually construct things. The gray ish ones are your patrons. These are the guys who are going to be kind of filling out the town, filling out what's inside the castle, and making the innards of your kingdom work. And then you have soldiers and knights. Soldiers have 1 point of power. Knights have 2 points of power. So I could say take this and would be able to attack this fort, this castle, as long as I had a food and a ladder to spend. If I am able to do those, so I actually turn these in. I put them back into the main supply. I don't get to use them for anything else. I have conquered this castle. If I was playing red, I would get to move my marker over. I would gain 2 bravery. And these tokens, which always change throughout each game, I would gain 2 silver and 1 wood. These would go into my supply. And again, this can happen at any point during my turn. So if I'm in need of, say, 2 silver, I could go on a campaign to attack the castle and gain 2 silver that way. All right. This is the main way to earn bravery, which is one of the main statistics that you are trying to work your way up the track to earn points. Again, we'll talk about all that here in just a second. So you can attack her. All right. She is always going to attack you. So now let's focus here on this board. So this board is, it's going to somewhat track your rounds. So you can see here there's 5 rounds. It's also going to track these cards that you choose. You can see here this is going to give you your starting resources for a round, but it's also at the bottom, these are going to give you goals for you to achieve to earn more VP. So in this case, tournaments 1, that's an area of the sheets we'll talk about here in a second. If you win 2 tournaments, you get a VP, 3 tournaments, 2 VP, 4 tournaments, 3 VP. A good score in this game is somewhere 50 to 60. So if you have 5 of these and are scoring, 3 to 4 VP per, that's a good chunk of your final scoring. And so once you've filled this up, you know that the game is coming to an end. But the important part is these small cards up here. This setup you see here in front of you is what it would look like in the middle of this second round. You always have this one siege card, which comes from this deck here. And then there's this huge stack of attack cards. The siege cards are always going to be from a ladder. You're always going to want walls to protect against a siege, and rocks are always going to be the primary tactic you can use against the siege. This one is telling us that they are attacking from the right and the left. And the A symbolizes how much strength they're going to have. So if this was the second round, in this case, the board up here would look like this. Maybe something like this. They would be attacking for 2. These cards are placed up here not in a random order, but in a specific order. You can see this one was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is giving you the strengths for the various attacks. And you can see they increase in difficulty. Like way back here, E is all the way up to 5. But it's not going to be there until the 5th round. So your attack cards are what you are building up your own castle and preparing your knights and soldiers to defend. All right, so that's where this little board comes in. This is my favorite part of the game, this dual layer board here. It's really nifty. It's going to hold spots for your walls. So you can build 4 walls here. Four towers around the outside, a front gate, and a moat. All right, so everybody's going to get these. They're going to start off the side, and you're going to start with nothing built in. But the primary thing you're going to be constructing off your sheets is the walls, the gate, the towers, and the moat. These are going to be used to defend. So in this case, if we were in the second round, they would be attacking for 2 from the right and the left. I would want to have built my walls up to level 2 in order to defend this attack. All right. And walls are always constructed, increased in strength. They can never be decreased. You can never lose your walls or anything like that. This isn't like, trying to think of some other games that you can actually lose your walls, but I'm blanking at the moment. Anyways, some of these cards will come in face down in round the second card and the 4th card. when you get to these rounds, those cards are always going to come in face down. There are ways to flip them over, so let's go ahead and flip them over. But in case you can't flip it over, there is some information on the back side here. This one's telling me that it's a ballista that's attacking us. It's going to be on opposite walls, but we're not sure because of the arrows. But we do know that towers will help, that these 3 meeples, we could throw them out there, and bolts is the tactic we can use. And sure enough, they're attacking from these sides. Towers, see how the towers are grayed out as opposed to the walls grayed out? That's telling us that the towers are what we need to beef up. And it's going to be A and B, so 2 and 2. Towers are very nifty when they can be used against an attack, because this one tower counts for this wall and this wall. This one tower counts for this wall and this wall. So for B, I have 1, 2, 3. And for A, I have 1, 2, 3. So with just the towers alone, I am defending this attack. For this attack, we're looking at just the front gate at 2, and I have a wall of 2, so I'm good. More than likely, your castle's not going to look like this at the end of round 2. So, in order to meet the expectations of this attack and not get overrun, there's some other things we're going to be able to do. One of them is put extra meeples out. So sometimes you're throwing meeples, your soldiers and your knights, into battle against Matilda's castle. Sometimes you'll actually physically put them out here on your castle to protect a certain side of your castle. So this knight would be protecting this side for 2 strength. This soldier would be protecting this side for 1 strength. But if they're needed, they are kind of attacked and removed. You're always going to look at these cards from left to right, so you always end with a siege card. And you'll get very familiar with the siege cards. But these cards are going to be very much a mixture. Here you can see this one is just the front gate. It's a battering ram. Whereas the arrows are just the walls, but there's nothing that you can use against arrows. There's no hot oil, there's no bolts, there's no rocks. Nothing works against arrows. Let me find what am I looking for here? Here is the trebuchet. The only thing that works against trebuchets is to find cover, which you need to build. So no amount of walls or tower strength or moat strength or gate strength, because they're just launching stuff right over all that right into the middle. There's one last one, yes. And then the kind of siege tower here, if you build up your moat deep enough, then you can protect against it, or your own little swinging logs can knock them down. So really love these cards. They work really well. And once you get to playing, you'll see, you'll see that a siege tower is approaching, and you won't even need to necessarily flip it over to know I need to build up my moat. What's the worst number up here? 4. Okay, if I have my moat at a 4, I'm good to go. But that's to say, building up your castle is not that easy. That's the difficulties of the game. So let's come back to the sheets now. Let's just specifically talk about what you want to be doing on this sheet. Anywhere that you see a brown banner, that's payment. All right, so to either unlock to add my gate and then improve it, I need to spend a craftsman and a wood. When you pay that amount, you then get to fill in a white box. All right, sometimes the white boxes are empty, and all you gain is access to what's to the right of it. Other times, there's things in the white box. For example, the walls box is here. I build a wall section. I get to either build or improve a wall section, and I get a patron. But here, I only get a wall section. Here, I get a wall section and a mite, which I come down here. If I check off my first one on might, I get nothing. But my second check off at might gets me a patron. So you can see how you can start rolling things into one another. If you can continuously be filling in boxes that gain you things, then using those resources to fill in another box that gains you a new resource, your turns can snowball in a glorious way. But that's the main concept of the game here as far as taking your actions during a round. You pay what's in the brown banner, You then get to fill in the next box. You always have to fill in boxes from left to right. All right. And then you gain whatever is inside the white box that you color in. Over here on the buildings, one last thing is that you'll notice that governance has blue banners at 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, and 8. That's because the blue banners all represent something out here. So in order to build my small keep, I not only have to have a craftsman and a wood, but I also have to be at level 1 of the governance track. To build the medium mint, I have to be at level 5. All right, for Warcraft. All right, the first thing we see here is level 3. That's for the small stables, and level 6 is for the large stables. Sometimes there will be things associated with the brown banners, like tactics. To open my first tactic, I have to be at level 1, then level 3 for my second tactic. And, you know, chapels are the same here, 2, 5, and 8 for the chapels. And entertainment here for Mekalimas, 1, 2, 4, 5. This is all spots along this track that I have to have unlocked before I can do certain things on this right side. So at this point, you could sit down and play the game. You might be a little lost, though, with all of the choices that are here on these sheets. So let's look at our sheets even more closely, each section individually, and I'll explain what each section does. So you can either stop the video now and go play you a game, or you can stay tuned for very detailed how to play in each section. Here we have the left sheet. The top of the left sheet, again, is mainly focusing on preparing our castle for Matilda's attacks that we know are coming at the end of every round. These first 4 sections here are exactly what we use to build up our castle here. You've got your gate, your tower, your walls, and your moat. Your moat can actually be built by serfs or soldiers. Everything else takes craftsmen. But when you pay your resource on the left and you gain what's in the box, pretty much each time you're either going to be able to, let me clear out my castle here. You're going to be able to either add a wall or tower or whatever it may be, or increase that number. The trick with the walls, however, is that walls cannot be increased in one area more than 1 higher than what's next to them. So in this case, this 2 is okay. All right, because these are both 1s, and that is just 1 more. But this one cannot go to a 3 until these 2 are both 2s. All right, but these 2 can't go to 2s until I have at least a 1 here. Thematically, this makes perfect sense. You can't just build one really tall, strong wall. It'll fall over. You don't need to build the towers. Towers are not necessary. Moats are not necessary. Gates are not necessary. But since walls are pretty much the primary source of defense, they do have this rule that states you cannot build up one section more than 1 higher than the section next to it. So you're going to have to build up your walls together, just to keep that in mind. But other than that, these sections are very self-explanatory. The moat is a great way sometimes to get lumber, and always helps against the siege towers. Moving on down, we have our 3 sections here that the servants will work, the serfs. And these are going to give you instant things like wood, food, and soldiers. But they're also, at certain points, going to help you increase your production, which, again, is down here. The more you build this up, the more resources you get to start each round with. So don't sleep on these 3 tracks here. Below those tracks are your tactics tracks. So remember, we had to learn these in Warcraft. All right, by learning a tactic, you get to choose one of these to unlock. You fill in the white box to unlock it, you gain a soldier, and then you pretty much just spend a resource. Wood is the main resource. You don't need a craftsman, so you could turn in a single wood. As long as you've unlocked rocks, you turn in a single wood, you outline one of these circles, and you can just keep going down. Then when you need to spend one in order to defend against Matilda's attacks, you would just fill it in. So earlier we saw that the ballista needs covers in order to protect against it. Well, if they are attacking with a ballista strength of, say, 2, I would need at least 2 covers, because each one of these tactics provides 1 defense against Matilda. So I would need to make sure, if it was early on, that I unlocked this tactic, and then I built enough, turned in enough resources, wood, to outline enough circles to then fill in those circles and spend them on defense when Matilda attacks. Also, bolts here requires you to have unlocked your own ballista in order to fire bolts back. That's the only one with a requirement. So why don't we just move over there and look at that section next. So here we have our shield kind of area. I call it the wheel. This is where you spend your money. There's very few other places where you need to spend silver, but this is a direct resource. You spend the silver, see it's in brown, and then you start here on the inner part of the circle. And then as long as you can draw a single branch of filled in spots, you can keep branching in whichever direction you want. So say you want to increase craftsman production over here, you would need to do 1 craftsman, 2 craftsmen, 3 craftsmen, 4. So you'd need 4 silver. 1, 2, 3, 4. You earn yourself a craftsman and a craftsman production. The most important part of this wheel, though, in my opinion, is going down. So after you've unlocked the surf here, then you can either do ladders or ballista. You have to turn in a silver to unlock the plans, all right? But then you've unlocked the brown banner and can then use a craftsman and a resource to fill in this box, in this case, ladders. You gain a mite in the process, and you have ladders for the rest of the game. It's a symbol that you now have unlocked, so anytime you see that symbol needing payment, you have that payment. And here you can see, here's your own ballista. There are certain increments here. The small crane, you have to build the small crane in order to get the catapult and the battering ram, and you have to build the small crane to get to the large crane, which you need for siege towers and trebuchets. So it's all very continuous, branching down, but I could say build this and skip all the way down here to small crane. I could skip ladders, I could skip ballista, I could even go surf, small crane, surf, large crane, if I wanted to, because those I can draw a continuous line. The kind of last thing here in the middle, tucked in the middle, this is basically your player aid for your castle defense phase. So this is always going to happen at the end of the round, and this is just here to help work you through the steps. So the first thing you're going to need to do is pay food equal to the round number. You got to feed your people. If not, you earn discontent. Then you get to any leftover craftsmen, soldiers, or knights you can place around your castle to offer additional defense. You also can, at the brewery, unlock beer tokens, which can be spent on these people to increase their strength by 1. At this point, you have to discard all your serfs and patrons and all your additional resources. So you might as well use them up to this point. There's no saving them from round to round. You then go through the attack cards. You discard any ones that you successfully fight off. You keep any that you did not successfully defend. Any cards that have a skull on them, which means they're harder, earns you an instant bravery. Then you're going to earn loyalty equal to the round, the number for the round, which is not necessarily the round number, minus the undefeated attacks. So if it's, say, round 3 and this little number is 2 and I left 1 card in play, I would get 1 loyalty. And then you earn discontent basically on the opposite of that. I would earn 1 discontent. If I have any leftover knights, soldiers, or craftsmen, whatever I discard up to a strength, every strength of 3 I discard, I gain 1 serf to spend at the beginning of the next round. And then last but not least, here on our left sheet is our scoring, our VP track. Again, these are the really the only scoring things, plus the bonuses, the bonus ones we already talked about. But bravery, loyalty, influence, and might, you just keep filling these left to right. If you get to the end and you earn more, say bravery, nothing happens. But these also do give you a few bonuses as you move along. So anytime you say fill in this, you get a surf, soldier, surf, loyalty, soldier, influence, surf, might. Wherever you are at the end of the game, this number, basically however much bravery you have, that's your score for bravery. However much loyalty boxes you've checked off, that's your score for loyalty. So you'll just count those up. Discontent here, we talked about discontent. You can cancel out discontent by earning these hearts, but that's going to give you a negative value here. And then path cards, that is these cards here. So there you can see that's how you score to win the game. All right, let's look at this other sheet here. This, again, remember, is what is considered to be inside your walls. So a lot of patrons are going to be used on this sheet. First, we have governance. Governance is going to help you build keeps, mints, and train spies. Keeps are a great way to advance these other tracks. Okay? They're also going to gain you influence. Mints are the best way to, or really the only way, I believe, to increase silver production. So each mint that you complete gets you a bubble filled in on your silver production. That's an additional silver you're going to get at the beginning of each round. And then spies. Spies are very important because every time you get to one of these here, you circle these, it's a little card symbol with an arrow on it. You can fill in any circled one to flip over a card. Spies give you knowledge. That symbol equals knowledge, meaning any face down attack card you can flip over when you spend the spy, so you can see exactly what's coming against you. Also, in a multiplayer game, if you use your knowledge to flip over someone else's card, you can gain bravery up to 3 times. So there you go. All right, Warcraft. Warcraft is the main way that we can improve tactics and our soldiers in defense and get ready for other battles. So tactics are exactly what we discussed. So every time you unlock a tactic here, you get to go back to the left sheet, choose any tactic to unlock, and then you can spend resources at your leisure to gain more and more of those tactics to spend on the defense side of things. Ramparts are these symbols here means that you get one of these tokens here. So these are rampart tokens, and they are refreshed at the beginning of a round, and you can spend these, flip them over to their inactive side, to move someone who you've placed around the outer wall of your castle. So if you guessed wrong on where you needed extra defense because of a face down card, you could spend one of these tokens to move a player around, or a meeple around. And then last but not least, your stables are very important because more than likely you're going to start needing the black horse or the white horse to attack Matilda's castles. So if you have no interest in attacking her castles, then you're probably okay to leave the stables alone. All right, moving on to the worship section, or the kind of religious section of your kingdom. This is obviously where you build your chapels, small, medium, and large. Once you build a chapel, you need to take donations of food, resources, and silver, but then you're going to gain more patrons and patron production. Also, once you've built your small chapel, you will unlock Knight's Training. This is the best way to get an instant knight, but also if you're lucky enough, there's a little element now where we'll start looking at these cards. Everybody gets a deck of cards like this with a unique back on it, but there's a lot of information on these cards. So we're going to start flipping these over here in just a second. Knight's Training is one of the few ways to earn knight production. And then St. Valentine's Festival here is really the best way to earn you surf production. It also earns you some loyalty and some serfs. So let's come back to Knight's Training here and St. Valentine's Festival. These cards here, anytime you go to Knight's Training or St. Valentine's Festival, you're going to flip over. In this case, you can see here 2. So anytime you see these little purple banners, that equals these cards. And you're supposed to take 2 or 3 off the top of your deck and flip them over. Now you'll see here that this card has a purple section at the top and a pink section at the bottom. The purple section is going to be for your 2 worship areas that require symbols. Your pink section is for entertainment, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So the first purple section here is these symbols. You'll see here I have drawn a scroll and a horseshoe. For Knight's Training, we are looking for different symbols. So as long as I have 2 different symbols, I gain a soldier. If I get down here and can actually draw 3 cards, in this case, I would not have 3 unique symbols. I would only have 2. But if I were lucky enough to, well, I keep flipping over bad cards here. Well, here we go. If I'm lucky enough to flip over 3 unique symbols, I can earn either a knight's production or a soldier. If I can get 4, and there's only 4 symbols, if I get lucky enough to flip over 4 unique cards, I get all 3, or both and a might. All right, so Knight's Training, you're looking at the very top row of this card. These are super multi-purpose cards here. For St. Valentine's, it's always going to tell you to flip over 2, and you're looking at these symbols here. So you would flip over 2 cards. The first card, and this isn't a great example because they're the same number, but there we go. The first card you flip over, the one on the left, you're looking at the pink symbol. The second card you flip over, the one on the right, you're looking at the blue male symbol. Here, I would fill in the female symbol for number 3, and here I would fill in the male symbol for number 2. If you ever flip these cards over and that number symbol is already filled in, you can, I forget what they called it, spin around the pole or something like that, increase or decrease by 1. Either way, anytime you fill in both the male and female symbol for 1 or 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. You don't have to do them in order. You get to unlock what's on the bottom here in order. So say I do the 4s, I unlock this one. Say then I do 6s, I unlock this one, and so on and so forth. All right. So there's the 2 purple sections of your multi-purpose cards. All right. Last but not least, the most entertaining section, pun intended, is your entertainment section. So you'll notice this one, there's a ton of symbols on the bottom here. Most of them are other resources like wood, food, or checks on your VP track, loyalty. But you also have this pot with, like lumber underneath it. To me, it looks like a witch's cauldron, but it's for your brew house. All right. So let's jump right to the brew house here. What you want to be able to do is fill in the boxes to complete rows or columns. Every one you do, you get to circle a beer mug, and then you can spend the beer mug to feed it to a soldier or knight to increase their strength. If you backed the Kickstarter, they gave you beer mug tokens as one of the little promos. All right, so that's the brew house. Every time you check off a witch's cauldron, you get to come over here and draw 2 cards. So our multi-purpose cards. And you're looking at the 3rd row here of the pink section. So in this case, I would do the barley. And here I would do a hops. So I can pick any hops or any barley that I want to fill in. All right. But again, I'm trying to accomplish rows and columns to make beer. This first section that we skipped over is your tournaments. So remember this was a VP, a bonus VP section that we can, if we win a certain number of tournaments, we get more VP. To enter a tournament, you really just need to put in food, but then at a certain point, silver. You're going to earn a knight because knights have to, you have to be a knight to enter a tournament, at least you did back then. And then you're going to flip over 2 cards. This is the trickiest one of the card flipping techniques, but you pick up on it pretty quickly. What you're looking at is this second row here. And this bothers me a little bit because up here at Knight's Training, which was the first one you come to in reading order, it was the top purple one. Then the next one was St. Valentine's Festival was the next one. Meeple here, this section uses this top one, and then we go in order. I really wish they would have put the books like down here under Brewhouse. It would have been easier to keep track of these cards. Anyways, we're looking at these here with the spear and the shield. It's a jousting tournament, right? The first one you flip over is your attack and your block. All right, so you're attacking in the middle and blocking on the right. The second card you flip over is your opponent. Your opponent is attacking on the left and blocking in the middle. In this instance, all right, they won. All right, because they attacked, you had no block. You attacked, they blocked. All right, they were the victor. All right, that's 1 on them. You're basically playing 3 rounds trying to see who the winner is. If it's a tie at the end of 3 rounds, you win the tie. So maybe then you flip over another set of cards. This is you. You're attacking in the middle. He blocks it. He's attacking on the right. You block it. This is a tie. So this one went to him. This one is a tie. And then we would do it one more time here. And you're attacking on the left. He blocks. He's attacking in the middle. You block. So in this case, he won, and there was 2 ties. So he would be victorious. You still get the knight, but you don't get the trophy. All right. So you have to have been victorious in order to earn the influence and the soldier. Down here, you automatically get the bravery. Down here, you automatically get the bravery, influence, and knight. But you have to be victorious in order to fill in these boxes on the right. All right, finally, let's come over here to Meeple. This is some kind of studying thing. You basically pay your serf. You get to flip over 2 cards. And here you're looking at the books. And you're looking at these numbers. What you're going to want to do is draw these numbers into one of these boxes. They can go anywhere. But what you're trying to accomplish is a pair of numbers that equals this sum. So a 4 and a 3, there's no 7. So I could put maybe the 4 here and the 3 here, hoping for another 4 and the 3 down the road. Once you have completed both numbers and equaled the pair, you gain what's on the right. And there's 2 boxes up here at the top that does not matter what the sum is. So I could put 4 and a 3 up here and gain a single resource of my choice. I could do it again right here. You can see that the hardest one is a 2 because you need a 1 and a 1, but you gain 3 resources of your choice and an influence. 14 is also very hard because I believe, no, the highest number is an 8, I think. Maybe higher, but 14 is also tricky. So that's how Meeple works. Again, I wish this one was the 3rd row down. That would make a lot more sense to me. Last but not least is the llamas. These like pennants here that are, you almost don't even notice them. They're hidden down here along the bottom, but they are an area that you can score. So similar to Meeple here, your llamas, you spend a serf, you pay, you flip 2 cards, and here you're looking for these banners at the very bottom. Makes sense? Bottom section, bottom row. Here I would get to fill in a yellow banner and a purple banner. So here's a yellow banner and here's a purple banner. If I fill them both in, I gain what's in between them. I could have gone here and here, but I wouldn't have gained anything. All right. So you can spread them out if you want and hope to earn stuff later on. But in this case, I would earn a heart that can balance out discontent, or I gain points on the loyalty track. So there you go. All right, so zooming back out here, we've covered everything. We've covered each section of these sheets in detail. Remember, you are going through 5 rounds. Each round, you're going to get a path card that's going to give you your starting resources, your starting meeples, as well as your production. It's also going to give you kind of goals to go towards with endgame VP. You're always going to be dealt attack cards. You're always going to be given 1 siege card plus 1 attack card equal to the round number. So this would be a round 2 setup here. Some will be face down, some will be face up. You always have the opportunity to attack Matilda's castle, but you don't have to. It's not a requirement. You're not going to earn discontent by not attacking her, whereas you will earn discontent by not being able to defend. And to accomplish these 2 things, mainly this one, you got to be filling out your sheet. So hopefully I explained everything well enough that you can sit down and play a game. For those of you who are familiar with Hadrian's Wall, it feels very similar, but this is a step up in complexity, not a super step up. So, the bouncing back and forth, looking right and left, filling in the white boxes to gain resources to spend somewhere else, all of that tracks from Hadrian's Wall. The biggest difference here that you have to wrap your head around each round is not spending workers out here, which it's easier than you think because soldiers and knights can't really be spent out here. You can spend a soldier to dig your moat, but and train your horses, but other than that, there's not much else to use them for except for attacking Matilda's castles and defending your own castle against Matilda's attacks. But you're going to need to spend food to attack, and you need to save resources for the end round to feed people. In Hadrian's Wall, you basically just spent everything. You just kept going, filling in boxes until you had nothing left, no resources left to spend to check something off. Here, you're going to need to save stuff in reserve in order to survive each round. So that's the biggest step up in complexity. But I have really been enjoying this one. It definitely is a learning curve with your first game. Plan to take twice as long as it says on the box, which I don't even know. It says 90 minutes. It easily took me 2.5 hours instead of an hour and a half to play through my first game. But that's mainly because I was just learning where everything connected. You sit down and you're like, okay, I need a craftsman. I've got a wood, but I need a craftsman to build this thing. Where can I get a craftsman from? And you're just scanning all over these sheets, looking to see, all right, I can get a craftsman here, but I don't have a silver. Where can I get a silver? And you kind of track backwards. You had to do that in Hadrian's Wall too. Once you have kind of learned the sheets a little bit better, games will start picking up. And for solo play, which solo play is really nice because it has this little campaign book, which just gives you, it not only gives you the history and a story behind it, but it just sets up the scenario for you and tells you what you need to accomplish in order to be successful. Maybe it's build all the mints, which is round 1. Successfully build and fill in all the mints. You don't have to attack any castles to be successful, but you're trying to get, I think it's like 60 points, less than a certain number of discontent, and build all the mints. You're trying to build back up your government at the beginning because you just took over and the coffers are empty. So it's very thematic in that way. But it just changes things up. It's not a beat your own score type of thing. It is in a way, but it's a beat your own score with this stat this time, or beat your own score with a different stat in round 2. So I really like how they did it this time, as opposed to, I still love playing Hadrian's Wall solo because it is multiplayer solo or whatever they call it, where you're just focused on your sheet. People can't mess with you. The only interaction you have with anybody is drafting these cards and the few places where you could help someone out. But that's it. In Hadrian's Wall, there's a little bit more interaction because you could use certain cards of theirs to your benefit and you'd have to pay them. There's even less human interaction here. So very much just everybody do your own thing around the table. But I highly recommend this one if you're into very combo-ish, loving to combo things together. One thing leads to another thing, which leads to another thing. Your turns just kind of snowball if you do them correctly, which feels very satisfying. And building up your little castle, I know it's so simple as, these little pieces with numbers on them and a dual layer board, but it's incredibly satisfying to build up your castle here and see it visually. And I'm glad they did it this way and didn't just have a piece of paper that you colored in, or I mean a section on your paper. They could have done it right here, you know, and just had you filling in numbers easily enough, but they did it this way, and that's a really nice touch. Anyways, those are just my quick thoughts on the game. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Have a great day.